One thing is to have some nice continuations. Another thing is to adjust them to another stones which are already on the board. Welcome to the next video about the opening. Here let's start with this situation. Let's say it's black's turn. What can black do there? So after this shape, here in the top right corner, there are basically more options for black. In case there are no stones around, the most usual move for black is to play like this. This is a move so that later white cannot have there a nice base. For black, it might be possible to play at this O16 to enclose white there, maybe even get all this big corner, might be possible for black, so it's quite big. So this is like the most popular move for black to add, is this M17. But in case we have here these another stones like this and maybe like this, now the situation is a little bit different. In case black would start while playing, for example, this move, white can think about fighting. Because of having this extra stone for white, it might be a little bit more interesting for white to play this way, and later it might be possible to fight somehow against this black stone. So now playing like this, it might be not that interesting for black. But maybe black can actually notice that, okay, black has here the stone. Maybe it's possible to play something so that this stone will be in a good position. So actually, maybe it's possible for black to play like this. In case white answers and black extends, where can white play? In case white answers again, like with this simple jump, now black got some kind of a wall and a nice extension. And actually white in this shape, the shape doesn't look so perfect for white. There are still many weaknesses. For white not to have these weaknesses connected with these cutting points, so that maybe at some point black can try to play from this side, or it might be also possible for black to try to play something like this and maybe later here, in case white connects. It might be possible at some point, for example, for black to play this kind of situation, and later when we get these exchanges here, like this, it might work well for black. For example, of course, this situation is quite complicated and there are a lot of agi, but even if black will play just from this way, and when white will answer, at least black protects a little bit more own corner, so it's another possibility for black. So maybe black can actually play here even earlier, but at this moment I would recommend just to focus on this, what is here in this part, so that black gets there this wall, and black uses this nice extension. In case white would also like to protect all these weaknesses, white would probably need to make more extensions there. So now black doesn't need to even play here, because black already has a very big wall and a nice extension. So like this, that white will play here, it doesn't have that huge influence on the situation. But even if again black answers all the time, white just pushed black so many times, black should feel very happy about the situation. But normally in this kind of situations, when there is already a stone very close, it might be not that necessary to really add this move in some cases. Yeah, and actually this is another thing which we noticed in this situation, that this one white stone will be in a place, like not so good place, right? Because normally after this kind of things, maybe white would not play here. Actually, maybe in some cases white could even think about playing just this one space jump to run a little bit faster with this stone, so that maybe white would be able to get this advantage in this race between black and white here. Yes, it might be possible. So after playing a move like this, all the time basically black has an option to try to push and get there this wall, or black can even decide at some point to just play this kind of keima. All the time there is a weakness in white's shape, black might play later in this spot, so that it will be possible to cut white's shape. And if it's white's turn and white wants to protect own shape, it's actually quite hard to find there an interesting move for white. So like this, black all the time gets quite nice shape with an extension here, so that black gets a very nice potential on the right side. And here actually maybe it would be good to prevent this for white. Like for white, normally in this kind of situations when black has a keima to lower opponent like this. For white, in this case, it would be also could be also quite interesting to add a move like this, not low on the third line, but on the fourth line. On the fourth line, also in this spot, so that in case white would play here, black would anyway get some nice exchange, so that black would get this wall a little bit bigger. This move threatens of this kind of cutting, so most likely it would be anyway some kind of center for black. So while having this possibility, black might again use this kind of stone as a nice extension from the stronger group. So usually in this kind of situations, white would probably play like this, so that now this stone doesn't really matter that much. White doesn't need to answer. White can even control the situation while playing this move to also get some wall, so maybe white would be interested also in taking the other part of the board. But the more important is that white doesn't need to answer. This is an important thing. And white here, of course, has much more potential than in comparison to this exchanges, when black already got this wall and white simply answered somewhere there in not so comfortable way. So usually for white, this is a move to like continue there. Of course, for black, it would be good to have there this wall to make this stone in a nice extension, but black has some emergency that black can also play like this to get there this corner. This corner is not very small, maybe for the opening it's not huge, but in some middle game it might be already interesting to play this kind of stone to protect it in the future. And in case white would answer here, white looks a little bit over concentrated, but there are also some weaknesses in black's shape. But in case black will play here later, it's also possible to destroy their like white's shape in endgame. So this might be another possibility for black. Of course, white doesn't need to play here. This is like just possibility for white, but not necessary. White can also make just this exchange so that black cannot enter that area very deep. After this exchange, for example, after this move, it's possible to play in center. Without this exchange, in case black would have played a move like this is not center. Black would just continue with cutting. So this is also a reason why sometimes in the opening we can see this kind of exchanges. So yeah, in this case, white could think about playing like this, but as it was black's turn, black would think about this interesting keima. And this is actually a power of this Kosumi. This Kosumi on the start, this move, this one is like slow move. Basically, many times it's very slow to play this move, but after this move there are these continuations that it might be possible to play, for example, from this side. It might be possible to go high, but also there might be this emergency that it might be all the time possible for black to get this territory in the corner. So even though this stone is quite slow, it gives black some possibilities for the future. Okay, so let's check some other variations. This is a Chinese Fuseki, Chinese opening. It used to be quite popular before the AI. And here I would like to show you some like AI Joseki and explain it a little bit. Normally white, after this shape in the AI era, in the AI age, let's say, white started to play like this attachment. It might look strange because normally it's not so good. Because where to play for black? Black probably as a first thought would be to get a big corner. Just here it's possible to turn the opponent's stone in a not so good extension. For example, now in this shape, white can continue with playing these two exchanges and now maybe playing some extension from this wall, so that now this black stone in this spot is actually not so necessary, right? If the stone at R9 was not there, would it change much? Not that much. So because of having this stone is not so good position, even giving black territory on the fourth line might be still okay. So this is some kind of Joseki. Usually white is a little bit more comfortable in this situation because of black having this like an extra move in not that interesting spot. Like in this situation, white can also think about even adding a move now somewhere here. And here, generally, it's good to notice that for black, without this stone, it would be a very big move to play, for example, something like this. Because black gets this like move on opponent on white, so that for white it will be much more difficult to expand towards the center. But now after this move, this move here at this r9, it looks anyway very close to the other stones. So like this might be also another possibility for white just to play somewhere there, because anyway this move at r9, it will be not so good extension. So here white can even consider playing this free space jump, also because after this black's continuation, it's more difficult for black to invade there. So in case white would have played like this, maybe black would think a little bit more about these invasions, because black has like not that much to lose, let's say. Yeah, and after this move, in case black would have played some tenuki, maybe black would like to make it impossible for white to play a nice extension. Here it's actually possible to get quite nice profit for white in center. Like it's possible to play this exchange, later it's possible to play this exchange, later it's possible to play this, and later this. And suddenly we can realize that, even without this move, that we can realize that white got here these extra stones in center, so that this white's group starts to be a little bit stronger. Black didn't have in this position a stone in this spot. After the stone, black looks a little bit over concentrated, but black controls this area here. And in the other position, when we move to this situation, now white starts to have there some stones. White starts to control that area. Later white can also continue here. Just this continuation is not necessarily good, because black can also play here this double hane, and black can also try to get their territory on the fourth line. So this one might be not so good. But even these exchanges, so that black will have there this less territory, and moreover white will have here these two stones, which will maybe help with controlling the central part of the board, might be already quite interesting. Of course, white should not play this kind of moves. This is like, just no, this base is not important anymore. For white, it's more important to have this like impact on the center. So in case white would like to choose some moves, more interesting would be to play already, for example, in this direction, so that black would play closer to this white wall, in case black would play some moves like this. Okay, so yeah, this is one option. In this situation here, in this lower right corner, it's possible also to have some other like joseki. White can think about playing like this, black can think about playing like this, later white plays like this, and so on. And this situation usually is more interesting for white. Also, of course, depends on the situation, but like this, white gets actually quite a lot of territory, and it was black's corner. Now also black from one side, black looks like he gets some wall, and here black gets a stone on the third line, and it will be still very difficult to attack this white's corner. So normally it's not that interesting to play this way for black. In case black plays Sansan, this move at this r9 starts to be also like not so interesting extension, right? Normally from Sansan, black would like to play some two space high extension, so that normally in case we get a Sansan, like to play some extension from this move, usually it would be something like this, like on both sides, maybe possible to play a little bit further. Yeah, this would be like the options, but usually it's this one is the most optimal extension from Sansan. Although normally from Sansan it's not that easy to play extensions, right? Because it looks a little bit better if the stone was in this spot, because black gets a little bit more space, a little bit more potential for making territory. So from the Sansan, it's not that easy to find really nice continuations. And when there's a stone in this spot, now when we move to this variant, when white plays like this, for black it might be not so interesting to play even in this way, because after this move, what happens? Black has this stone actually close to a strong group. This group is like staying there. It's very low, and this stone is also very low, so that for white it was basically not possible to get here a nice territory because of this black's stone, which would give black a very nice endgame. So that in case white at some point would decide to play something like this, it's not that easy because of black having like some very nice endgame. So this stone is help for some protection for black. So this is usually not a good direction to play when there is some slide like this on the second line. And now when black has this move here, black doesn't attack anything, black doesn't do much. So if black would choose this stone and put this in some other place, maybe to attack something, it should be much more interesting. And after this stone, white, even if white blocks, like this, black is just so low on this right side. Black must fight in this moment to have any chance to get a nice result. Black must fight, but just because of having these stones low, for white, it's actually not that difficult to move with this own group. So that like this kind of moves also threaten that there is a cutting point. So it's actually, in my opinion, quite interesting for white to continue. Actually, maybe instead of this move, it could be even a little bit more interesting to play a little bit further, so that white has even a little bit more speed with this three stones here below. So this is like another option, which in my opinion would be quite interesting for white. But after this move, actually white doesn't even need to answer. White already got enough that black just played on this one side, and white can already play Tanuki, and I think white should be quite satisfied with this result. Yeah, but maybe it's possible to play something else, like yes, white can also play this way. In case black will try to get all the time this right side, at any point this move at this R9 will look not so nice. So probably black will try to play from the other side and hopefully play maybe even like this. Just this situation looks a little bit strange for black. Why having the stone in this spot? It looks a little bit like not that interesting in my opinion. So maybe instead of Sansan, black can think about playing from the other side, maybe this extension. Now, when white already is more into playing on the right side, because black just let white have some possibility of playing there, white can think about playing like this. But when black blocks the corner, white, like playing this two-space extension, it doesn't look that good, right? Because it's close. Also, like it looks both a little bit over-concentrated plus weak. So that this space, this eye space, which white can get, might be not sufficient for white to create the really two eyes in case black plays around. And also, like white doesn't have there this potential of making nice territory, and black anyway gets here nice corner. So this maybe would be not that interesting for white. Normally in this shape, white only plays these kind of exchanges, this and this, so that white threatens that maybe it would be possible to make their two eyes. Black doesn't let their white a possibility to play like this. So after this move, usually white just ignores it and plays somewhere else. At this moment, after these exchanges, white plays in some other part of the board. And why playing all these exchanges? It's normally to play that black cannot get a nice shape in one move. So before, in this initial situation, in case white didn't play there, and white played somewhere else, later black can play, for example, in this spot or in this spot and get in one move quite nice situation in the corner. Of course, there are some weaknesses all the time, but these weaknesses are not that annoying for black. And in this situation, how it was earlier, when white played like this, and here we get this, this shape. Now, if white will play somewhere else, how to attack this group for black is not that easy. If black will play here, white can ignore one more time. So later, if black will play like this, actually, I'm wondering maybe even white can ignore one more time, and all the time there will be quite many weaknesses. Why? Because of this ko. It might be possible for white to play this ko. In this situation, when black already invested so many moves around, playing a ko and losing it is not interesting, because black would play then close to the strong group in case white captures this ko. So probably black would just connect at some point, but after this connection, white can already play anything around. And it should be possible to at least create a ko for leaving, but maybe it would be even possible to survive without a ko for white in this case. So while having these extra stones, it's actually not that easy for black to try to kill this white's group. So normally white just makes these exchanges and later plays somewhere else. So that, yeah, it's not possible to block the situation in one move only for black. Okay, so let's move to some other situation. Maybe this one. So yeah, maybe this one. So after this shape, when black has this Hoshi, 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 the Sansan starts to be really annoying. And after this move, for black, it might be quite difficult to find any continuation. Because if black decides to play from one side, it's actually symmetrical, so doesn't matter if black will play from this side or from this side, anyway, we'll get the same result. So after black plays like this, when white plays here, and black tries to get this wall and let white live there in this corner, we can actually realize that this one of these stones, depends from what side black will play, will be in not so good position. This stone looks okay because it's an extension from the wall, so this is maybe okay, but this other stone is not efficient. This K16 now, it doesn't make sense that this stone is there. Like, it would be maybe a little bit similar even if we consider that black played here, but white didn't add a move on the second line, and white would be anyway alive in the corner. So this one is a little bit further, so it should be a little bit better, but still it's like really quite close to this black's strong group, and it's not in this direction to make it having a nice extension. So for example, instead of having the stone in this spot, it would be much more interesting to add the stone somewhere there on the right, for example, in this kind of spot. So in this situation, this is also a way to make one of the opponent stones as a not so good extension, so that when we see this kind of shape at any point, it would be just very good to jump in the Sansan, so that one of these two stones from opponent will be in also good position. And this situation is very popular in handicap games. So yeah, later white could play the Sansan and one of these stones would be in not that good position, because in case white will play like this, black will just try to fight. Like this, black will play high because black wants to keep as much pressure as possible on these white stones. So later when white plays some one space extension because white wants to get there some base, all the time it should be possible for black to attack this white's group. So usually in these kind of situations it would be more interesting for white to start with Sansan. Okay, so let's move to some other situation. Here we've got another Joseki after pincer. This Joseki might be a little bit more complicated than the previous situations, but I will try to simplify it. So normally after this move, black can play something this way, so that what happens? Black just jumped, white answered. So for black it might be not that interesting to push, right? Because when black will push, white will get territory on the fourth line. So black will play here and white gets a lot of territory there. But on the other hand, black has a stone to attack. So it might be still quite interesting to have this wall. Just for black, it's not necessary to play these exchanges in this very moment. It's possible to wait a little bit, because in case black waits and black plays, for example, in this spot, later, we don't know what will happen in the game. Maybe anyway black will be connected somewhere here, so it would not be necessary to play these kind of exchanges. And then in this kind of situation, it would be maybe more interesting to play on the third line. We don't know. That will be in the future. Depends of this what will happen in the actual game. And in case white will like to make these kind of exchanges, black will be only happy, because black, it looks like black, while killing this stone, will get territory even on the fifth line. So it's even more for black than this what was for the white for white. So like this, when white will decide maybe to jump here and try to escape with the stone, now is the good timing for black to play these kind of exchanges. So now this exchange, this stone for this stone, is an extremely good exchange for black. This is very nice, because white, instead of a possibility of sacrificing this stone and playing, for example, instead of this spot, if playing like this, white could be maybe also okay, because white gets here territory on the fourth line, and here black has only possibility to capture this one stone and gather some territory, but it's only one stone, not that big, so this stone is given just to sacrifice, and white can also get some profit in the other part of the board. But when white already played like this before, then it's not that interesting direction, because white plays again close to black's strong wall. So that in this kind of situations, black should be happy, because black has a possibility to attack opponent's group, and white cannot really get there any territory. So in my opinion, like this, black should be quite happy. The similar situation we can get after playing this move, which is maybe even a little bit more popular than playing this one line lower. Of course, there are also like more possibilities. Basically, after this move, like the most popular option for white is to jump anyway. After this move, if we go the same direction, the same thing, it's also all the time the same. White plays close to black's wall, just this stone is a little bit closer, so that like it has some pluses and minuses, that maybe for black it will be possible to like give less space for white to create there any like ice. Maybe it's also possible to try to connect in some cases in this C13. It's not very recommended, but maybe will be possible to play there at some point. It's not recommended because white will start to get there some forcing moves around. And anyway, black doesn't want to only connect. Black wants to fight. Black wants to attack. So black might continue, for example, with this kind of move and all the time keep some pressure on these white stones. And in case white escapes, black can also continue. So like this, all the time this white group will be under some attack and black will get some other stones on the other part of the board. But maybe it's also possible to play something a little bit more interesting. Because with these stones, like when we continue, so far we cannot see black's profit. Black doesn't get really that big profit. It might be possible to change it. In case black doesn't play here immediately and black plays something like this now, the situation is different. Because after this move, in case white answers, now it's already much easier to fight. This stone is some help for black. Like, do you remember some similarities between this shape and some shapes from the previous videos? Like also, when there was this extra stone somewhere there, any potential fight which could happen will be more interesting for black because there is this help for black. And even if black will decide to play from the same way, now black at least will get here some territory. This is already black's territory because black will get a strong group. So here it will be black's base, and black will get there also some points. So sometimes this kind of moves might be also interesting. Even if white will answer here, all the time white has a weak group. All the time black has here this profit, just black can continue even while playing here. So yeah, it's actually quite difficult for white to find a nice continuation on this move to really try to resist. So it might be also quite interesting to play. This situation is actually some kind of Joseki. It's even for both players. Because this territory on the fourth line is anyway not that small, so it's still possible to play even like this and like this. I cannot speak that it's really bad for white. It might be an interesting way for black to use this kind of a stone instead of playing any other complicated Joseki with some moves what we maybe will not be able to understand the meaning. It's possible to play always this kind of simple stuff to later focus on attacking opponent. Okay, so yeah, let's check maybe some other possibilities. Maybe Sanrensei, another Fuseki, another opening which used to be quite popular in the past. After this move, when white plays here, black many times decided to play a pincer, and later white used to play Sansan. And then black has a dilemma where to play, at A or B. And here it's actually good to notice that black has here the stone on this fourth line quite far, so that in case black would get some wall, it could be a nice extension. So for example, in case black would play at B and then we get this old style Joseki, now it would be a nice extension from the wall. So yeah, there is some wall and there is a nice extension, so it's possible to get there some nice shape and maybe a territory for black. This modern style of playing with the AI stuff usually is that white plays in this spot and later we get this kind of exchanges. Anyway, black will get a wall. Anyway, black can play something like this, so black will have this wall. So basically the situation is very similar. This is just supposed to be a little bit more comfortable for white. Yeah, but I think it's anyway both situations are playable. Just in this situation there are a little bit more agi in this right side because black has one liberty less, so it might be a little bit more interesting for white to get some nice moves here in this area, so that black maybe would need to answer. So there's actually this difference between this shape and this other one, this like old style Joseki. So yeah, but anyway, black gets a nice extension from the wall. So maybe black could also think about playing like this, but after this kind of shape, when we get this shape, now this move here, it doesn't do that much. It doesn't attack white's group. White has actually quite a nice secured group in the corner, so it's difficult to use a power of the stone for any attack here, and if it doesn't go for this attack, then this attack is quite useless and black gets only some potential territory, which is like not that interesting. Normally every move should have both territory plus power, and in case power is not interesting in a shape and only a territory is left, then this like efficiency of the stone is not that big. So this is usually not the recommended way, and it would be good for black to play from this side to have this nice extension in this case. So maybe let's check some other variation. It might be possible in this shape for black to play like many moves around, like to have some pincers, and later when white will play, for example, this kind of move, it's possible to play this one. Yes, but this we saw already in many Josekis, popular possible situation, but we can actually think also about playing on the second line. This is also a move which started to be more popular in the AI age, let's say. So why playing even this kind of stuff? There are a few things. One thing is that there are less agi. For example, when black would have played like this, white sooner or later might think about playing this attachment. So later, in case black cuts, white can cut as well. Then usually black would need to play something like this on the right side to all the time keep this corner, and then white can play something like this to keep this group quite strong. Because in case black will play here, white can play, for example, something this way. So in case black captures the stone, white is able to kill all the other group. So after this cutting point, black would need to connect, and white can capture the other stone in case white has a ladder. So this is quite annoying, could be annoying in some cases for black. So not to have these kind of weaknesses, black can decide to play maybe on the second line. Now in case white would play like this, it doesn't work. Black can just cut the stone and capture it later. So yeah, this is one of the reasons to play like this. Another reason for black to play this move which is a little bit lower are potential center moves for white. White will have less center moves in the center, like in black has if black has a stone here, maybe more moves could be center. Maybe for white it would be possible to lean a little bit more to get a little bit stronger group in the center, because center it's not always good to play this, but it's possible to play, so in some cases it might be good. Yeah, and this is basically the most important thing, that there would be the center. Of course, in some cases it might be also possible to play this direction, so later it's possible to get some nice like territory on the top. And in case black plays here, it's also possible to reduce this like black's territory a little bit. So yeah, this is some other option, but normally it is that it would be possible for white to strengthen on group more. And when black plays on the second line, not that easy. In case white plays here, black can just extend, and that's it basically from these center moves which white could get to strengthen this group in order, for example, to attack this stone or any other stone which could be on the right. So yeah, this is like the reason that black might think about playing this lower move. But about these lower moves, there are a few interesting things that normally when somebody plays on the second line, then this side where this second line stone is starts to be usually smaller. So for example, now after this move, when black is secured here in this top right corner, this all the top side is not that interesting. For example, in case white could choose, let's say white would have here a stone, and later white could choose in which side to play, usually it would be more interesting to play in this side than to play in this side, because here it's more difficult to get their territory. For black it's not that easy to attack, and also it's easier for black to get some nice end game. So for white it's hard actually to expand in that direction. So usually when there is a stone somewhere on the second line, which is like hard to attack a group or hard to get a wall. In this case, when white plays here, I think black would just try to cut and do there some problems. Like now white has two weak groups, so this in many cases might not work well for white. When we just get this kind of shape, then normally playing in that direction would be a little bit smaller. Also similar for black. Like for example, if it would be black's turn and black would play a move like this, maybe for black it would be more interesting to play from the other side. But to check similar moves, to understand it better, maybe let's have a look on some other variations. So maybe it's possible to check some other situation. This is another Joseki. You don't need to remember it. It's just to show that it's also possible to play here a little bit lower on the second line. It's also like some Joseki. Of course, to play this Joseki for white, it would be interesting to have here some stones so that white would have there this good extension. But again, when we get this shape here so that somebody will play on the second line, it's not that interesting to play on that side. Now we can already see a little bit clearer that for black playing in this side or to play in this side, it makes some difference, because when black plays here and white plays like this, white plays again closer to this group, which is quite strong. So when black has a strong group, not so good to play close to the strong group. And for black also not so good to play from the strong group, because for black it will be hard to use this strength. So white will just answer, and what can else black do there? So yeah, instead of just getting territory with a strong group, I would recommend to start to play from the other side, and maybe it will be possible to get some profit, bigger profit or even much bigger profit from this stone on the left side instead of the stone on the top, which is just close to the strong group. We can also play even a little bit different situation. It might be possible to get even this shape. Now, even though there is no stone on the second line, and there is this like very popular shape here in this top right corner, when this white's group is also quite secured, maybe it's not very strong, but like there are no problems for white in that shape. So even in these situations, in case black would play like this, normally it's even more interesting for white. Instead of simply answering here, it's more interesting to kick. Because later in this following situation, when black will just make this free space extension, even immediately when white will play this kind of exchanges and black will connect, it should be already good enough for white. Why? Because black gets a strength without possibility to use it. Of course, black got a few points, but these points are not so big. So black's like most important thing from this group would be to get the strength. But white, we're having here already this group which is quite secured, and it's very hard to attack it, or like how to attack this group. Not possible. So when it's so difficult to attack it, for black it might be very difficult to use this power. And for white already got a nice profit. White already secured the corner. There are no weaknesses in any Sansan. This corner is pretty solid. A lot of territory there for white, even in center in case black connects here. So for white it might be quite interesting to use this way of playing when there is this kind of secured group. Even though the stone is not on the second line but on the third line, in this case it might also work quite well, so that we will push opponent to play on that side. So also for black, in many cases, it would be just more interesting to play in this way and not on the top. Thank you for your attention, and see you in the next video.